If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, there's a chance that you may be experiencing what's called a trauma bond. And this can keep you feeling tethered or even addicted to that toxic person. Now, if this is going on in your life, you may be in the habit of doing 5 things that are actually signs of a trauma bond. We're going to cover all 5 in today's video. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina. On this channel, we talk about emotional abuse, spirituality, and self-development. Today, we're talking about habits that are actually signs that there may be a trauma bond in play. Now, these are habits that you're going to exhibit if you have been in a relationship with a toxic person. If you've dealt with someone on a long-term basis who is abusive, emotionally abusive, then there's a chance that you may be experiencing a trauma bond. Now, those of you who have watched this channel for a while know that I've been there. I have been in that place where I felt trauma bonded to an abusive person. And before we get into the 5 habits, one, if you don't know what a trauma bond is and you want more information on it, I'm going to link to a video in the description below. And the second thing I wanted to share is how it felt for me when I was in this place. Because when you're in this place, it can feel so lonely and so isolating. And I think it's helpful to share experiences and share stories so that we know we're not alone. So I can sum up my experience or my feelings when I was in that place with 3 words. And the first one I'm going to go with is crazy. When you're in this place, it's really easy to feel crazy. Why? Because people always tell you that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? And how many of us have been there? The problem was that I didn't really see that I was doing the exact same thing over and over again because I was trying to change things that were in my control. I would change myself. I would change the way I approached things. I always had a plan for doing things differently. So my mind was always blown when I ended up in the same place. And the reason why you end up in the same place is because if you're dealing with a narcissist, they go through patterns. And those patterns don't really have anything to do with you, although they feel very personal in the moment. So you might end up feeling a little bit crazy for making that decision that puts you back in the same place again and again. And it's an undesirable place. It's not where any of us want to be. Now, the second thing I felt when I was in that place was weak. Because when you are in a trauma bond, when you feel bonded or tethered or addicted to someone who is not good for you, you end up making choices that you know you shouldn't. Choices that you feel are going against yourself, going against your best interest. And on some level, you probably know this. I can tell you in my situation, I definitely did. I knew that I shouldn't be making these choices. I knew that I shouldn't go back to that person again, and that going back to the first feeling that I would end up feeling crazy because I knew on some level, I would end up back in the same place again. But yet, there was such a strong pull, such a strong draw to go back to this person who was so abusive and so hurtful. And the third word that I can use to describe how I felt in those moments was stuck. And I know if you've been there, you can relate. Because you feel like you can't get out of it, and because you feel weak and crazy and you feel like you keep making the same bad choices, you end up feeling like you're stuck because you haven't been able to get out of it yet. So how does it end? When is enough enough? Now, if you have been in this place before, I would love for you to share some of the feelings and some of the thoughts that went through your mind when you were there, when you're in that place. Because I think it's helpful for other people who are there right now to see that they're not alone. Because you're not actually crazy, weak, or stuck. If you're in this place, you're at a pivotal moment. And if you're watching this video, you're learning about things that can help get you unstuck. Okay, so the first habit that is actually a sign of the trauma bond is staying too long in toxic relationships, situationships, whatever it is. It could even be a work relationship. Let's say you're working in a toxic work environment and you end up staying too long. Or if you're with someone who's abusive or someone who's just generally, if you can't use the word abusive, maybe they're just not nice to you. Maybe they're just really mean a lot of the time and you put up with it and you stay in that relationship too long. Now, this is a sign that you may be trauma bonded in that situation. And it's also a sign that you may have experienced this before, that this trauma bond is familiar to you. And maybe that's what keeps you there. So clearly I've been here too. And one thing I want to say about this is that when you're in it, it almost feels like a badge of honor. Like, oh, well, I've stayed with this person. I have been with this person, this toxic, abusive person, longer than anyone else has. This is the longest relationship this person's ever been in. So it feels kind of like a badge of honor, but it's really not. And the same is true when you're in a toxic work environment. You know, when you have a toxic work environment, there's usually a revolving door. People go in and out. Either they quit or they get fired, but turnover is really high. So you're not going to find a lot of lifers. But the people who are there the longest are usually the people who have experienced some sort of abuse in their life. So if you're in that, if any part of you is feeling that, I want to tell you that this is not a badge of honor. Yes, we all want to know that we can get through difficult situations. We all want to persevere. And it's nice to be known for having a strong character. But when the price you're paying is to put up with abuse, it's not worth it. So the next habit is making excuses for your partner's bad behavior. And this could also be a parent's bad behavior. And this could be their behavior towards you, which is very common, that you make excuses to yourself and to other people for why you put up with it or why they were abusive in the first place. Maybe you even take responsibility for it. Well, it was really all my fault because XYZ. Now, you could also be making excuses for this person's behavior to other people, because narcissists aren't always the nicest people around. Yes, they can be very charismatic and they know how to get people to like them, but that can be exhausting. And sometimes they let that guard down and they might say or do something that is just really outright rude, something that other people really don't expect of them. So if you're out there and you're doing damage control and you feel like you're trying to manage and maintain this person's reputation, there's a chance that you might be trauma bonded to that person. So the third habit that is actually a trauma bond is going back to a person who has been abusive to you. Now, we all want to give people a fair chance, but there are some things that are really inexcusable. If someone feels like they can treat you like a punching bag, there's really no excuse for it. Now, if somebody acts out in anger once and, it's something that you feel like you can forgive and forget, then that's completely up to you. Actually, it's all up to you. But if you find yourself forgiving someone who maybe doesn't want forgiveness or doesn't deserve forgiveness or a combination of both, there's a good chance that the trauma bond is at play here. And now I call this a habit because it ends up being a habit. When you're in a relationship with an abusive person, like I said, it's not just a one-off thing. This person is going to consistently use you as a punching bag and consistently treat you badly. Now, you should know that there will also be good times mixed in. This is what's called intermittent reinforcement. It's not all bad. You might feel like you're dealing with a Jekyll and Hyde personality. Sometimes they're great and sometimes they're really, really just not. But because we usually want to see the best in people, we look at the good parts and think this is that person's true nature, when in reality, all of it is that person's true nature. And sometimes, and if you're dealing with a particularly malicious narcissist, it's more likely that the negative, the hate that's coming out of that person is their true nature. But no matter who you're dealing with, it's really important to look at that person as a whole, to understand that there's light and dark within all of us, and what they're showing you is real and it is really them. So the fourth habit that is actually a trauma bond is accepting lies as truth. Now, what I'm talking about here are lies that we know are lies. And if you've been in a relationship with an abusive person, you're probably going to relate to this. Certainly, there are going to be times when somebody lies to you and you have no idea that it's a lie. Maybe you find out later, maybe you don't. But what I'm talking about here are the lies that we just accept because it's easier. Because if we were to fight it, maybe that person would leave. They definitely would blow up. It would be a fight. And it might challenge what you feel you need in your life. And if you're trauma bonded to someone, you are going to feel like you need that person in your life, like you need that relationship. Now, the fifth habit that's actually a sign of a trauma bond is excessive rumination or overthinking. And this is all going to be around that person. Now, rumination and overthinking are not exclusive to trauma bonding. Overthinking is very much related to anxiety. However, this can absolutely present itself as a result of a trauma bond. So if you find yourself constantly ruminating, constantly thinking about what this person's doing, what they're thinking, what they said about you, what they might say about you if somebody asked them, if you're going down the rabbit hole of that overthinking, even if you're still in the relationship, and maybe you're in a relationship with someone and you don't trust them, or you feel like the other shoe's about to drop and they're about to discard you. If you can't stop thinking about negative outcomes, or if you're out of the relationship and you can't stop thinking about the possibility of getting back with this person who's been abusive to you, there is a good chance that the trauma bond is at play. Now, trauma bonding is complicated and it's not necessarily easy to overcome. But the good news is that you are not tethered to this person forever. Not physically, not emotionally. You can break these ties. And if you're interested in getting started with that, you're going to want to watch this video right here. Now, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please do hit that like button and comment below to let me know. These things really do help the channel and they help other people find this video. So I'm off to get started on next week's video. In the meantime, be sure to check out that video on the trauma bond, and I will see you next time.